Welcome back to the Padilla family homestead. We are spending the day in the kitchen. So I started this morning off just a little after at 8 o'clock in the morning, roasting my pumpkins and I think it's called a candy roaster squash, getting them ready to be able to use as puree. Some of it's getting put in the freezer for future soups or other recipes, but some of it we are using today. I ended up spending about 7.5 hours in the kitchen today. I had about 4.5 hours of footage that I recorded, and I knocked that down to 27 minutes for you. So you are welcome for a quick overview of what a day in the kitchen looks like for me. If you are new to the channel, we are in transition right now, and we are staying with my best friend and her husband and their family here in the northwest corner of Arkansas. We're saving up until we can get our own place. They very kindly let me record videos while I am in their home, but as an active household with multiple kids and so forth, and we have 4 adults and 3 kids. It just, the house gets very busy. So I have to do a lot more voiceovers in the kitchen, and I don't have as many angles to try to keep people off camera who don't want to be on camera. Once we land in our own place, we will have different styles of cooking videos. But for now, this works because I get to share what we are doing, which is awesome. So it's fall, and as most of you have gathered, we really like pumpkin-y things, and we try to do the healthier versions of things because there's still a lot of sugar being used today. But we do try to do more homemade, and last fall, I created 3 gluten-free cookbooks, and they're not up for sale right now. They're ebooks. They're not up right now with the transition of the move. I'm still figuring all that stuff out, what I have to legally do and so forth, because I actually closed the business entity in California, and now I got to figure it all out here. But hopefully, I will have my gluten-free ebooks back up. Now today I'm making the exact same recipes, not gluten-free. So they're just regular with regular flour. I'm kind of showing you my plan for the day. I did not even get done half of this stuff, but that's okay. So these are my pages from my ebook. So I'm using all my recipes, which is awesome. I got the cranberry pumpkin scones done, and the pumpkin cream cheese muffins, salted pumpkin spice caramel sauce, and sriracha pumpkin seeds. And this is how much I have taken over their kitchen. Thankfully, they love me. So, basically, I roasted the pumpkins and the squash at 400 degrees, and just until they were fork tender. This will vary depending on how thick they are and how big the slices are. And now I'm letting them cool. I am going to get some garlic tops cut off. I was going to make compound butter with this, but I got too tired after the long day in the kitchen. So the garlic is in the fridge roasted, and I will be doing a compound butter with that another day, which is okay. But all I do for the garlic to roast it, is I am taking the tops of the heads, cutting them off, putting them in a container with parchment, lining it, drizzle some avocado oil, and also roast it at the 400 degrees until it is roasted through. I tried to do the tops, but they got really burnt. It was kind of gross. So for the garlic, we use oil. For the pumpkin, to make your own pumpkin puree, you use no oil. You just flip the pumpkin or the squash upside down and roast it till it's fork tender. It has enough juices. And I like doing this instead of buying canned pumpkin because it's, 1, cheaper. 2, you get multiple things out of it. So I'm getting pumpkin seeds out of it. I get a lot of it so I can make my squash soup and so forth, and I'm just freezing it and it works well for me. Not all pumpkin is actually made from pumpkin. A lot of it's made from squash, any type of winter squash. So it's pretty interchangeable in recipes. So for my pumpkin seeds, I'm going to make the sriracha pumpkin seeds, and I just soaked them in water for about a half hour, and I got all the pulp off of them, and then I rinsed them really good with the strainer, patted them dry a little bit. I'm adding about 2 tablespoons of sriracha because that was a lot of pumpkin seed. I did a half a teaspoon of smoked paprika and a half a teaspoon or 1 teaspoon onion powder, and then probably a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons of avocado oil, and just a light sprinkling of that Flour of the Ocean flaky salt that I get from Azure standard. And I just stir this all up, make sure it's all evenly coated. Takes a little bit for that oil and the sriracha to coat all the sides of all the seeds. So I'm just playing with it there. And then I'm going to lay it down on that parchment paper and kind of try to get it evenly in there. And I'm going to bake it at 400 degrees for 20 to 40 minutes. It does seem to be always closer to that 40 minutes. It just depends on your oven. I probably left it in a little too long this time, but hey, that's okay. You want to let it cool completely because the insides will be super, super hot. And then you can store it in an airtight container in the fridge once it's done. But they are absolutely delicious. I do stir them around a couple of times throughout the cooking time, just to try to make sure that not one side is burning, that they're evenly coated. Okay, so now I'm going to make my pumpkin puree. If you've never done this, it's super easy. I'm going to start with the squash. I'm actually going to bag the squash up for soup later. And I've just roasted this. I'm peeling the skin off. It comes off super easy after it's roasted. And I'm popping it in my food processor this time. Now, I don't normally use my food processor for this, and I definitely overloaded it today. I actually thought I broke it because it wouldn't start, and it said, when I went to go unplug it, on the cord, it says that it has an auto shut off if it feels like it's being overworked. So unplug it for 15 minutes and then let it go and use it again. And that worked. So it does still work, but I definitely overloaded this. So make sure you're using your equipment properly and not overloading it. You do want to make sure that you don't start a kitchen fire or something like that. So I've used my Vitamix for this, and I've used the food processor. Both work. Do whatever works for you. For me, either one is fine. I just know that in the food processor, I need to do smaller increments. And so I freeze my squash puree in 2-cup batches. So I've labeled my quart-size freezer bags that they have 2 cups of squash puree, and I squish them flat, and then I'll pop them in the freezer and let them cool. So I got 3 bags of squash puree, plus I got pumpkin. So while the seeds are cooking and the garlic is roasting, I thought I'd make my salted pumpkin spice caramel sauce. I'm making the regular version I've made before, and then I'm trying a not completely dairy-free, but the heavy cream is going to be a dairy-free heavy cream. My best friend is dairy intolerant, and so I'm trying to try a few of these recipes out with dairy replacements. Now, I have made this caramel sauce so many times, okay? I know that I need to watch it, and I know that I need to watch for that color change, and the fact that I'm using cane sugar, I need to be careful of. Now, I purposely do not start these at the same time, because if both are ready at the same time, I'm in trouble. Now, what I did not take into account is that the one pot is bigger, and so it's not as the fluids more spread out, and it definitely got done faster. It was kind of funny. So basically, to make this caramel sauce, you take 1 cup of sugar or vanilla sugar, and you put it on the bottom of your pan, trying not to get the edges. You get a 1/4 cup of water and you pour it on top of that, and 1 tablespoon of corn syrup. And you turn the heat on to medium low, and you just let it heat up. You let it cook. And then don't stir it. Don't do anything. Once it gets like darker, at like a amber color, which I did not wait long enough. So mine was very light, which was a problem. I thought it was done and it wasn't. And that's when you're going to add in your 3 tablespoons of cold butter cut up into 12 pieces, your 1/2 teaspoon pumpkin pie spice, and 1/2 teaspoon of fine sea salt, plus 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. And I will tell you what, I used the wrong measuring spoon for my caramel. I don't know what got over me. I was supposed to be using 1/2 teaspoon, and I used 1/2 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice and 1 tablespoon, no, 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract. It's off the hook. So it still is okay. It kind of covers up for it being a lighter caramel, but man, I really messed up the measurement. So you stir all those in individually and whisk it really well. And then we're going to pour this into a mason jar. So I did the same thing for hers when this was done, because hers got done a little earlier than it should have. I ended up turning off the heat on hers early, and then I went ahead and I started getting her cream and stuff ready. Hers is much darker, so the color you're going for is kind of an in-between of ours. It was kind of funny. But it worked out, and we're going to have delicious coffee all week long. I just know mine has a lot of vanilla extract and a lot of spice, so use it sparingly. We were giggling here over the mistake that I made, and I think it's all going to turn out just fine though. So it's just, when you make mistakes in the kitchen, you're going to learn and you're going to pay attention even closer than you did before. So I put these in a pint jar. I usually do wide mouth. Mine is super runny. That should be the color without all the spice in it. Mine was like a very light creamy color without the spice in it. So my color should be what it is. Hers is way darker, and you can tell a lot of the liquid worked out, which is why there is way less of it in the jar. But that is okay. I did taste hers, and it does taste good. My other tip is to make sure you wash these pots right away. Get water in them and get them going, so that way the caramel does not harden on there and become a pain in the butt to wash. Okay, so the caramel is done. I put lids on it. They're going to end up in the fridge once they cool down a tiny bit. I'm putting the pumpkin seeds into a container. Everybody ends up snacking on these. They're too hot for me, but my husband, my best friend, and her husband all like those. So that is the perfect thing to have in the house this fall. Okay, so the next thing we're going to work on is the cranberry pumpkin scone. Now, I put the flour in there. I'm doing a triple batch, basically. I'm just doing it in 3 different containers because I like the way I measure it and cut it. You'll see. So I have 1.5 cups of flour in each one, 3 cups of oatmeal, 1/4 cup firmly packed brown sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and I almost missed the 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, but I get that in there, and I stir all those dry ingredients together, trying to make sure they are super incorporated. And then I add 1/2 cup of cold butter that has been cubed. in, and I use a pastry cutter to cut that in until it is kind of smaller clumps. You want all large and medium clumps are gone. And then we add in a 1/4 cup of coconut milk and a 1/2 cup of pumpkin puree. And we kind of start stirring it together. It's still going to be a really thick mixture. This is a drier scone. It's a play off of a Scottish scone. And so it's not going to be super moist in the center or cakey. It is definitely a drier one, but delicious and great with coffee. So you'll start to mix it, and then once you get it partially mixed, you're going to add in your 1/4 cup of dried cranberries and a 1/4 cup of white chocolate chips. Those are optional, but make it so much better. So then once you start getting that mixed, you're going to have to switch and do it by hand. If you have hot hands like I do, you really want to make sure you don't overwork this because you don't want all your butter to melt with your hands. But you're going to just mix it up, get it off that edge. I'm kind of squeezing it together, and then where my hand is, it gets kind of sticky, and I flip it over and I put it on the powder in the bowl and kind of push it in again and make it work. And then I flour my counter, and I knead it about 6 times. And then I form it into a 1-inch thick circle, and I slice it into 8 triangles. So I slice it in half, and then each of those halves in half, and then each of those pieces in half again. And you'll get 8 triangles. And so I've cooked this before where it was in a round dish, and I just pulled these triangles away a little bit. I will tell you, once I started not doing that and I started putting the wedges individually on the cookie sheet and letting the actual air and the heat go all around them, I really like that a lot better. So the other thing you need to do is sprinkle the tops with cinnamon sugar. Now, I do make 3 batches. I make 2 like this, except for I don't add the cinnamon sugar because one of those batches went into the freezer. And then I did another batch with no white chocolate chips, so just had cranberries and no cinnamon sugar on top to try to help with lessen the sugar content for my husband and people who don't like as much sweetness. The next recipe we're going to work on is actually going to be our last one, and that's the pumpkin cream cheese muffins. I'm doing a double batch of these, and then I'm doing the cream cheese filling. I'm doing a dairy-free version and a regular cream cheese version. So the ingredients for this are 1.5 cups flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 3 teaspoons pumpkin pie spice, 1/2 teaspoon salt, 1/2 cup brown sugar, and 1/2 cup vanilla sugar. Now again, I'm doubling this, so I went ahead and I did twice that amount into the bowl. So I put all my dry ingredients together, and then I get another bowl and I mix my wet ingredients together, but I forget my eggs, so don't forget your eggs. So it's supposed to be 2 large eggs, 1 cup pumpkin puree, 1/3 cup avocado oil, 1/3 cup unsweetened applesauce, and 2 teaspoons vanilla extract. So again, I doubled that. I mix my dry ingredients all together. I mix my wet ingredients all together. And then you combine your wet ingredients into your dry ingredients and let it sit. While you're letting that sit, because you want that sugar to really dissolve. A lot of people put their sugar into their wet ingredients. That's not a big deal if you do that. Just you need your sugar to be able to have a chance to dissolve. You don't want it to be granular. And that first batch of scones is done. I'm so excited. I was so ready to eat one of these. Okay, so we're going to get that going. And then we'll move on to the cream cheese filling. Now, something I will point out, if you notice, I'm trying to keep the oven going while I'm doing something else. So all of my projects I'm trying to shift in. Now again, this is about 7.5 hours in the kitchen. I did have to run to the store and grab cream of tartar sauce, and I didn't even end up making the snickerdoodles, but whatever. So I mean, you have stuff going on. Just manage your time well and try to go, okay, so while this is cooking and roasting, I could be doing this and making this batter so it's ready to go in. And then you're changing your temperatures in the oven. And I don't think I mentioned that. So the scones cook at 375 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes. The pumpkin seeds were 400 degrees for 20 to 40. I think I said that. And then the pumpkin cream cheese muffins, when they go in, this oven needs to be preheated to 350 degrees. And they bake for 20 to 25 minutes. So you'll see here, I'm mixing my ingredients together, and then I go, whoops, I forgot my eggs, which is okay. It's okay. So I just put my eggs into a separate bowl. I used a fork, stirred it all together, getting those yolks all broken up, and then kind of made a well in the center of my other liquids, and then really stirred that together and let it sit. Everything that I'm taking out of the oven, I'm also allowing to cool on cooling racks. So I'll put the scones on a cooling rack over the dish they're going to sit on because I have limited space right now. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my cupcakes. They're going to come out and go on a cooling rack. So my camera was not recording when I started the cream cheese frosting. So this is the regular one. It's in the black and white polka dot wrappers. And it's 8 ounces of softened cream cheese and 3/4 cup powdered sugar. And you use the flat beater the flat beater paddle for the mixer. And you mix that together till it's well incorporated. You will probably have to scrape down the edges and get it to go all the way through. And then this is a firmer texture. You'll see here, like it's staying on the spoon. I'm using my finger and I'm kind of pushing it in. You could use a spoon or something to push it in. The people that I'm serving this to don't really care. So my hands are clean. So I'm pushing it into the center. So trying to get it down, trying to get it to touch the bottom and push all the way down. Okay. And then we'll sprinkle this with some raw pumpkin seeds and some flaky sea salt. Now, when I was creating this and trying to do a mock Starbucks pumpkin cream cheese muffin that was gluten-free, again, this was originally a gluten-free recipe that I made, and all I did was switch out the flour. So if you're going to make this as a gluten-free, you're just going to use that. I use the Bob's Red Mill all-purpose 1-for-1 flour. And it will be a great Starbucks pumpkin cream cheese muffin replacer. So that's what it looks like going in. And then we're going to flip over and start doing the dairy-free. Now, I've never used this cream cheese before. We had never had it. It's kind of tangy. I don't know much about it. I know it's made with almond milk, and it was expensive. But my friend liked it when it was on I had her taste the filling. I think we added a heaping spoonful of powdered sugar extra. And this ended up being so much runnier. I will say the consistency is completely different. And you'll see it when I put it in, and you'll see it when it comes out, the difference. Because the pumpkin cream cheese muffins with the regular dairy cream cheese it holds its texture and it stays there, and it's this creamy goodness. This is like liquid, like you're pouring a liquid over. So I'm just trying to use my spoon and kind of mix it in. My friend said it kind of tasted like a cheesecake flavor, like how it has the tang to it. Cheesecake has tang. So I don't know. I mean, it worked. It wasn't exactly the same thing. It wasn't exactly the same concept, but it did hit that craving. If you can't have dairy, this actually makes the entire thing dairy-free by using an alternative. So I did the same thing, raw pumpkin seeds, and some flaky sea salt. Now, if you're using salted pumpkin seeds, I would not add extra salt to the top. I am being picky on if some of them look like really spotted or whatever because they're organic pumpkin seeds. I'm not putting those on top for presentation wise, but we're going to bake this exactly the same amount of time, and we're looking for that toothpick to come out clean. At this point, I'm moving on to cleaning up and taking things out of the oven as they are done. You can see the pile of dishes. It's time to start getting everything ready. But oh my, so delicious. I was so ready to eat those. So I let them cool for about 5 minutes in the pan and then 5 minutes on the rack. I had some extra batter and I didn't really want any more cream cheese filled ones. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to just put cranberries in these little cupcake or muffins. And so I sprinkle some loose cranberries on top and push them in with a spoon and bake it the same amount of time. And it's actually turns out really good. I can see that being a more savory thing. And that is my fall cooking day in the kitchen. It was a lot of stuff nailed out, a lot of cooking, but it's super yummy, delicious. It is. I'm excited that it's fall. It hit all those pumpkin cravings. You can see the difference that these are the dairy-free cream cheese on top. But I hope this inspires you to get into the kitchen, get creative. You can knock a lot of stuff out and have fun and spoil some people in your life. And I hope you try some of these recipes. We'll see you back here on the next video. Monday will be a craft day. Thank you for joining.